Hello, everybody. I'm just going to wait for everybody to join. Giacomo, can you hear me? Just 1 second, I'll kick up the other panelists back in. There we are, Giacomo. We've got Jean. And we've got about 22 other people. Thanks for your patience. We'll just wait a few minutes for everybody to join. Hi, Frederick.
Hi.
Sorry about any of that.
I think we're just missing Paola, Giacomo. If you could,
Yeah, I'll drop her a message in private. In the meantime, if you want to start it off, I think we already have some people in the audience.
Super. So let me share my screen quickly.
Technical question. I forwarded the invite to Nandini. If she uses the same link as me, will she then be in the webinar or will she then be a presenter?
I think if it's the same link that you have, then she will be presenting, but she can join via the website if you like.
Okay, I'll send her the link. I'll send her that link. She was very keen to
So I'll just kick off. Thank you very much. We've got about 23 people. So just for from ground rules, we're recording this webinar, and so we'll be able to reshare it with any of your colleagues. The webinar really touches on origination, and we've got some great panelists to review origination from their angle of the market. We'll be sharing some screens, and we'll just wait on a few more of the panelists and Giacomo to join back. But I'll give a quick introduction on Earthly. So Earthly has been around since 2020. Our aim is to help businesses advance their climate ambitions and invest in nature-based solutions. Fundamentally, at the heart of what we do is bring trust to the market through our assessment, and really help to demonstrate the power and value of nature-based solutions across their ability to deliver on carbon, social, and biodiversity aspects. So thank you very much. We've got Paola, and then we'll just wait on Giacomo. But I'll start with some quick introductions. We're joined today by Frederick Olber, the co-founder and CFO of CarbonPool, Paola Garcia Nieto, the co-founder and CEO of Green Tank, Jean-Benoit Rousseau, maybe related to the artist, you can let us know, the CEO of Taking Root, and then Giacomo Bortoleschi, our research associate at Earthly. So, when speaking about origination, I think, it's become maybe for us within the industry a term that is shared quite regularly. But, taking a step back, what does origination really mean? When we talk about origination, we're fundamentally talking about the identifying, the developing, and the establishment of a specific project, in our case, a nature-based project. So really trying to understand how we can fund and find these great projects to deliver on climate mitigation and often CO2 sequestration and avoidance. So, the voluntary carbon market is where a lot of us will be speaking about. And you'll know that the voluntary carbon market in recent times has had a bit of a bumpy ride. I think this all started a few months ago with the Guardian article, which stated that the majority of projects, I think that the articles actually stated 90% of rainforest carbon offsets are by certifiers are worthless. Now, that was a very clickbaity sort of notification to the market. And, the article, which followed some science from West et al., was really looking at specific REDD+ projects. So, I think the whole market got a bit of a hammering. And what was happening in the background was always sort of a recalibration of some methodologies. And there had been an integrity council that had been set up to try to bring forward and bring some regulation to the market. As we know, it's a fundamental requirement to help us towards the Paris Agreement goals. And so where we're at now, a few months later, the ICVCM, or the Integrity Council, has continued its work to bring trust to the market. Its release of the core carbon principles has started to establish some guidelines on what quality should look like, and we should have more clarity in November. But right now, what we're seeing is that there is fundamentally, a weakness in some of the market where pricing has dropped, and some of the confidence for corporates has really dropped, and they're worried about the quality within the carbon market. Now, why give this background? I think this is an incredibly important way of saying why the importance of origination becomes a critical step for businesses looking to harness not only the establishment of quality for their net zero ambitions, but also to try and understand how they can secure pricing at pricing that works for them financially. So I think, in looking at origination, in looking at, the opportunity, I think that we around this panel will feel that this is a great opportunity. And from a climate perspective, from looking at it from the Paris Agreement, we need a huge amount of investment to still flow into carbon and nature-based projects. I think the UN Environment Programme, or UNEP, stated that currently the market stands at an investment of around $150 billion a year. By 2025, this should already be going to $384 billion a year. And by 2030, it should be $484 billion a year. So that's a huge jump from 154 billion to 484 billion by 2030. And so we see that large investments are still required to meet our Paris Agreement needs. And so I think, in bringing together this panel, we're trying to shed a little bit of a light on origination, on the importance of trying to spur the investments into these projects. And so, I'd like to pass over to the panelists who will all introduce themselves and give a quick review of what they're working on. And then we'll go into some questions, and please feel free to answer any questions at the end as well, or keep them coming in the chat. So I think to start with, I'd love to hand over to Jean, to you, and to talk about taking root in the project, and so please share what you're working on.
Happy to. Thank you for this. JB also works well for those of you for whom Jean-Benoît Grégoire Rousseau is a little messy. I'm not related to the artist. I'm based out of Montreal. I currently am the COO of Taking Root. I oversee our commercial operations, human resource, and financial activities. After 15 years on the board of Taking Root, I joined a bit over a year ago because it was too exciting not to make it, my full-time contribution. And my focus is essentially on twofold. One is really growing the existing project that we have and continuing to build it. And this is largely spending a lot of my time thinking about quality and performance of our credits, and making it a really robust project, building the tools that go along with it. And then secondly is offering my support as much as I can to think about where do we go next, and how do we go from growing one project to scaling to multiple projects. Very happy to meet everyone.
Super. Do you want to touch on sort of some more on the actual project, where you're located in the project itself?
Happy to. Yeah, happy to. The name of our project is Community. It is based in Nicaragua. We work with a little over 3,000 farmers. We've been in operations for close to 15 years. And it's a reforestation project where we work with small landowners. I believe we are the largest Plan Vivo certified project. We produce roughly a little over 1 million tons of credits per year. The equivalent for us of something like 5,000 hectares of land reforested every year. And so it's a lot of work. As we like to say, we don't just plant the trees, we grow them. And so it's a long-term effort. We've been there for quite a while, and we will be there for quite a while.
Super. Jacko, do you want to go next and do a short introduction? I'll share my screen.
Yeah, happy to. Would you be happy to share the slides? Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So I'm on slide 16. Yeah, that one. Fantastic. It's a pleasure to be here. No, the slides before, actually.
Okay.
No.
No.
Yeah, that one.
This one.
That one. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's a pleasure to be talking about the work we've been doing for the past few years. So basically, Community, which is the project that Jean is bringing forward from Plan Vivo. It's actually a great example of best practices in the carbon market, but unfortunately, it's not representative of the market as a whole. Most of the finance that is going currently into the market, it's actually funneled into projects of questionable integrity that harm people and biodiversity. This has been true like historically in the past few years, but is now changing with increasing regulations and companies like the people that you see in the panel that are working to change this. So in the slide, you can see two examples of how poorly designed projects can harm people and biodiversity. On the left, you can see that poorly designed benefit sharing mechanisms that aim to redistribute the profits from projects to communities can lead to uprisings. And despite the fact that indigenous people are responsible for 80% of the world's biodiversity conservation and 30% of the world's intact forest, they're receiving a negligible amount of that carbon finance. Community is actually an exception to that rule, since they share like about 60% of the project benefits directly with communities. And on the right, you can see another problem related to poorly managed carbon project, which involves biodiversity. On the left-hand side of the picture, you can see a pristine Brazilian rainforest, and you can see the biodiversity at a snapshot because you can see all types of different trees. Well, on the right, you see the project on the right-hand side of that road, which is composed solely of eucalyptus from Australia. And I've actually kept the original sort of caption from the project that is advertising that. This is not a project that is being sold by Earthly. But you can see already, without being an ecologist, that the biodiversity of this associated with this project is absolutely non-existent. And that actually harms the flora and fauna and the underground biodiversity, since eucalyptus has also allopathic properties. So poorly designed projects can harm people and biodiversity. And this actually is what composes most of the carbon market currently. So the question is now, how do we change that? How do we funnel finance where it's most needed and deserved? Next slide. And this is the question that gave rise to the Earthly project assessment. more than 92% of projects we assessed around 300 projects, don't meet the minimum standards set by this assessment we created. We created it by bringing together academic research, but also international best practices and principles such as the Integrity Council for the Voluntary Carbon Markets Core Carbon Principles, the UCN Global Standard for NBS, and the Code of Best Practices by ICROA. And the purpose of this assessment is to define what it means to be high integrity in the carbon market. It builds a holistic, but at the same time, very detailed picture of project quality across 106 indicators that span across carbon, biodiversity, and social, in order to distinguish projects like Community and Ixtapopo, which Green Tank is gonna be talking about later, from the rest of the poorly managed projects in the carbon market. Next slide. Here you can see a bit of a zoom into the spectrum of questions that we ask. They span across all the standard question, the bare minimum around carbon, which all carbon projects should look at. But it's unique in that it goes beyond any requirement by any standard in the market by asking a very high standard for biodiversity and people. And this is why 92% of projects have failed the assessment so far. Next slide. In order to make this assessment, we bring together and stack a variety of different data. So we obviously do a desk review of project documents, including any other documents that can be shared, like technical documents that can be shared by the project developer. And that's the first layer of research. Then there's research, like academic research, and sort of sentiment analysis. We have an AI tool that automatically detects negative sentiment around projects and sort of press that may arise around that context. We bring that together with project registry data, so verification report, auditing report by third parties. And on top of that, we add our own like independent research through our own MRV tools that includes satellite monitoring with our partner Earthblocks and using the Google Earth engine. And also, once we have built this picture, we compare it with our partners, BeZero, who are the world's leading carbon rating agency, to get a second perspective on the carbon specific aspects. Next slide. So once we've made once we assess the project, we also bring in our scientific board to go deeper into what we may have missed. Yep, next slide. And so this is basically what happens in the backstage. In the front stage, we are helping investors basically maximize their ROI while minimizing the risk of greenwashing, reputational risk, which is extremely relevant now that, as Lorenzo mentioned, there's been a lot of sort of media attention on greenwashing, justly so. And so we align with the UK Green Claims Code, but also we are already prepared for the upcoming EU Green Claims Regulation. And in the marketing support we give to investor once they have invested in a project, we already provide material that is compliant with these regulations. Here you can see the examples of the work we've done for Innocent, UK smoothie brand, where they have increased the number of purchases by doing a buy one smoothie, plant a tree policy, and you can scan the QR code to go on our dashboard, which we are going to show in the next slide. Next slide. Yeah. So here, oh, no. Yeah. Here you can see some examples of marketing tools we use to increase engagement. You can see some snapshot of the client dashboard on the top that shares some project-specific co-benefits. Because the good thing about investing in high-integrity carbon projects is that you don't just get the carbon, an anonymous sort of token, but you also get a story around that carbon token, and you also get benefits for health, employment, livelihoods, ecosystem services, etc. You can see our earthly island there and many other assets that we share with clients. Next. I'll wrap it up in a second. And yeah, so in general, the goal is to increase integrity in the market, and we do this by supporting both developers and investors. Developers on one side get supported in understanding what best practices are associated with their project, understanding with a score of their project where they're at and where they can improve. And investors, on the other hand, get support by getting basically supported in their journey to choosing the best project for their corporate values, and also getting guidance on how to maximize the ROI without incurring the risk of greenwashing. That's it from my side. I pass the line to Frank.
Thank you. I guess that gives a quick review of what we're doing. I think next, Frederick, I'd love to touch on sort of CarbonPool. I know that you shared some slides, so I can bring them back up. But I guess in context, from the perspective, I think that what CarbonPool does is really fundamentally tries to bring the strength of what we've seen in sort of financial markets and other markets. It's something that can give and bring trust, where sometimes nature has its own risks, and when there is large amounts of funding at play, people want to secure those risks. So it's great to sort of have you here to share how that's being done. And so I'll just bring up the slides and pass it over to you.
Thank you very much, Lorenzo. And thank you for the kind invitation to you, Giacomo, and the entire Earthly team. We're very happy to be working with you guys, and it was nice to see your marketing material on the slides. I actually hadn't seen it, so you're really doing a tremendous job at making a topic that is, so I think, very difficult to understand for many, where a lot of education is needed, so visibly appealing. Now the slides, I think those might be someone else's.
Yeah.
At least what I'm seeing right now.
It's mine, yeah.
Maybe I can use that time to just say 2-3 sentences about me and how actually we came to this. So as you said, Lorenzo, we're coming at the ecosystem and the problems it has from a very different angle. We're former insurance and finance people, so bear with us if we sometimes use very finance-driven language. We come in peace and with good intentions, and the intentions we have is to provide the knowledge and advantages that other industries have by having insurance to the carbon removals and avoidance space. So our mission is to ensure carbon removals and any asset that has carbon stored, because we believe that it's a very important enabler to scaling the carbon markets, let's say the negative emissions side that as a planet we so dearly need. Next slide, please. The fundamental thought behind CarbonPool is corporates and other buyers of carbon credits, be that in the removal or in the avoidance space, are at the cusp of starting to invest significant amounts. Obviously, there are forerunners that are doing more work than others, are making larger investments than others. But I think we probably all agree that we're at that point where it's becoming more and more mainstream, and it's becoming a real problem for more and more companies that have their net zero plans and realize they have to have a carbon removal and avoidance strategy. They go out, they go for quantity, hopefully through partners like Earthly and the likes. But even with the best quality, they're just natural risks, as you mentioned, Lorenzo, that you cannot that are just part of life, especially in the nature-based space. But it's also true actually for engineered solutions. They're just things that can go wrong. In the nature-based space, it's easier to imagine. You can think of afforestation or reforestation projects where there's just a simple growth risk. Will the biomass grow at the pace that we anticipated? Maybe as a project developer, I sold some credits up front. Then there's a natural hazard risk, which is I have biomass that is standing on a few 100,000 hectares, and unfortunately, there are natural risks such as forest burns, pests, and the like that can wipe out significant amounts of biomass and thereby reverse the carbon that we've sequestered. And in the engineered space, there's process failure. Now, in the normal course of business, a large company like, say, Apple, Microsoft, you name it, who are investing billions into their removals, in the normal world, they would never do that without insurance. In the carbon world, they're doing that completely without insurance at the moment. And that's where we come in. Next slide, please. And provide an insurance coverage for the aforementioned risks. And we do so for corporates as well as for project developers, and basically take these eventualities of life away from the project or the portfolio of the corporate by ensuring growth risk. That's kind of a forward-looking risk for the next 3, 4, 5 years, as well as reversals through natural hazards, and in the future also what we could call in the insurance world is called business interruption insurance, meaning that let's say you have a machine that's capturing carbon, be it DAP or CCS, and it breaks down for some time, you need some coverage. Now, the key innovation that we bring to the table as CarbonPool, next slide, please, is that we do not insure in money like a regular insurance company would, but we actually insure in high quality carbon credits, because we believe that if you are a buyer of high quality carbon credits and something goes wrong, what you need at that point in time is not your money back. Yeah, obviously it's nice, but what you actually need is the climate and the carbon impact that you had planned. So we make our clients good in carbon, and to do that, we invest in our own projects to have a pool. That's where the pool in CarbonPool comes from, of high quality, high integrity carbon credits that we use to pay our clients. And all of that is packaged as a regular insurance company, currently applying for a license in Switzerland. We have our team is kind of at that intersection of insurance people and climate scientists, and we do so in a tech-enabled manner, using similar tools to our partners. We can jump over the next slide. I've been looking at the time, and I think I should. We can use that for the Q&A if need be. Lorenzo, I'm afraid I can't. I think you're muted. Either that or my speaker just died.
I wasn't sure if you were cutting out. Is this slide okay?
I said we can jump over the slide and pass over the floor to the next speaker. This slide I have more visible. We have questions at the end. Thank you.
No, thank you. I guess, Paolo, we can jump on to your slides next. Let me just bring those up. So, you know, Paola, we've been working with Paola on a great project in Mexico. And, you know, I'd love to for you to jump over to the work that you're doing at Green Tank. So let me just share my screen again.
Yeah, thank you.
You can take over.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, thank you for this invitation. I'm Paola Garcia. I'm from Mexico, and I am co-founder and CEO of the Green Tank. And Green Tank is a consultancy focused on climate change and the circular economy. We design inclusive and regenerative strategies for sustainability based on science, measurement and triple bottom line, economic, social, and governance results. We actually provide guidance to businesses, local governments, and organizations for implementing climate actions that can be traced, measured, and reported, and facilitate the transition to decarbonization of value chain. We have a portfolio of diverse carbon projects in Mexico, which are planned in consultation with the communities that will be involved. Getting local backing for carbon projects helps ensure the projects will be implemented properly and will be effective over the long term. Actually, the Green Tank model for carbon projects is based on collaboration with developers, technical teams, and communities, and our supervision of implementation. We work together with our partners to assure that there is transparency and accountability in all aspects of carbon projects. Our collaborative work is designed to promote economic development and capacity buildings in local communities and to advance progress toward the sustainability development goals. And here is my partner and my co-founder, Lucy Conger, and she explained about the Ixtapopo, and this is our project, and it's only in the front because we are a lot of people in back, and we are very happy to visibility this effort from Mexico. Okay. Go ahead, Lucy, please.
Next. Which slide should I go? Stay on the Ixtapopo slide?
Yeah.
Don't think Lucy will be able to speak on the panel right now. She's not joined as a panelist. Did you hope that she was?
Oh, okay. Don't worry. Okay. Actually, well, the Ixtapopo Carbon Project is with 6 communities in the area. In this project are currently dedicated forest management and environmental services. They have formed and training firefighting brigades. The necessary conditions are the place for development a carbon project with positive certificate socio-environmental impacts. The communities have give their express agreement in formal documents for starting the project. The developer is ready to commence work. The conservation and reforestation of this project will be benefit directly and 200 ejidatarios and their families. The community action aligned with SDGs will be monitor, report, and certificates. And it's Ixtapopo. It's a great project for us because it's actually we have a lot of activities with the communities there, and actually this project carbon capture potential you can see in this is 80,000 and 100,000 tons for the 3rd year, and we are happy because it's a lot of effort for many people for 2 years or more. Okay, and if you have questions, No, you
You have
asked
the
me.
next slide.
So, yeah, please. And we have another project in the middle, in the southeast. We have Bosque de Agua in the project zone. In here in Bosque de Agua is 12 communities currently carry out sustainable forest management, and 10 of them have active programs, environmental services. Local technical capacity is the place favoring development of a carbon projects with measurement positive social environmental impacts. The communities has given their formal agreement for launching, and project with an initial total surface area is 100,000 hectares. The project is the same like in Ixtapopo, is produce direct benefits to in this case 12 ejido communities and their families. We are very interested in developing effective communities action aligns with SDGs goals, because we really need and we really want to contribute to the transparency in the region, and from Green Tank we are very comprometidos or accomplishment to the transparency and bring the good mechanism of benefits for the communities. No, we are really think it's very, very important for us and for everybody. Thank you. I think that's all.
You want to go through this project?
Oh, blue carbon, yeah. we have a blue carbon in Sinaloa, and in this project is very special for us because it's many years in preparing, no. And the plan will create new economic production and employment opportunities in 24 communities plus private prosperities. Incentive designed with community resident will offer employment and improve quality of life. And this project is very, very special because it's blue carbon, but maybe not maybe it's connect with different communities. They actually is working in the shrimp farmers, and it's carbon and connect with the productive activities in that region. And I think it's very important because they need or that farmers or shrimp farmers wants to solve through the carbon and through the benefits from carbon. They really need or they really want to invest in the transition, sustainability transition, the shrimp farmers. You know, it's important to mention it. And the project will cover approximately 30,000 hectares, and it's projected that it will be compensated and for an estimate and 106,000 and 500 tons of CO2 equivalent, no, in first year, and a total of about 25 million tons by the 10th year. Okay, this is our presentation. It's very quickly, but we are here for any ask or any question.
Thank you very much. And I think a lot of the projects that we've discussed, I think central to what Giacomo was saying was how much impact they have to the community. And actually, in looking at a lot of the projects that was Paola mentioned, Ixtapopo, it's great to see how firmly established within the project the communities are in deciding, how the money's spent. And I think what we've continue to see from trying to bring in the knowledge of indigenous communities, of locals, is it's so important to bring in the local knowledge and the people to projects, because without that buy-in, these projects often fail. We need to work with the local communities, and that's how these really projects succeed. And that's one of the things that we really look to define within our assessment. And I think starting in on some questions, and then I'll open up we've got a few questions to go through, but JP, I think what we saw in sort of some of the documentation and also what Frederick was saying was there is a lot of investment that has to go into origination. And one of the things is, a lot of people have been purchasing on spot. Why is it that, there is this need for so much upfront capital to begin with, and why can't people just spread that, across the receivables of the credits that they need?
Thank you. It's a great question. The truth of the matter is, whether we like it or not, there's a shortage of high quality, credits in the market. And so I think we need to go after the bottleneck of this market. Our view is the bottleneck becomes apparent once you realize that nature-based solutions are actually human-based solutions. And that's where the focus needs to be. No amount of improvement in remote sensing monitoring will create more supply. In fact, the barriers to entry in this market keep growing, despite the fact that we're in a shortage. In simple terms, for us, upfront funding helps us think about how do we accelerate the development cycle of a project. And so the mature project we have is great, but it took us 15 years to get there. And it took 15 years. Why? Well, because we had to earn the trust of the local communities. We had to build a local team. We now have 150, 200 people over there, supporting our operations and really in charge of how the work gets done. But that doesn't happen overnight. Then we look at where we stand as a market, and we say, well, we need to multiply this by 10, by 100, by 1,000. But we don't have the luxury of 15 years for every project to start. And so that means that we have to take risks. And it means that we have to start projects. And it means that we're going to have to start projects that will probably fail sometimes. But we'll need to go in places and work with local community leaders and local communities, but invest massively in helping them set up their organizations so that we could lead locally. And that takes time. And so the gist of it, I think, for us is building the tools and the machine to do capability building at scale. And that's both human resources as well as technology, but not solely monitoring technology, but technology that helps you manage, monitor, and really run a project at scale, right? If you think of it, at least for us, working with small landowners, that means thousands and thousands of farmers. Just think of the complexity of payments. That's a whole endeavor for us, and that's kind of where we think the focus is. So upfront investment is really trying to get at what we believe is the market bottleneck.
Thank you. And I guess Giacomo, from the standpoint of a buyer, there is this upfront investment, but what are the core benefits that one gets from origination, do you feel, in terms of the outcomes that a customer can receive or could hope for when originating a project?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I wasn't able to share that in the presentation, unfortunately, but there's been recently several reports, especially one by UCL, that have predicted a tenfold increase in price within the next 5 to 10 years, and really we are seeing this, like everyone in the car, that we are in a sort of reverse bubble, price bubble, where like prices are kept low by the lack of ability of investors to discriminate between low integrity and high integrity projects. Now that we're seeing like principles like the CCP or the earthly assessment helping investors direct finance to where it's needed, we are already seeing prices, like I've already seen prices doubling over the past year. We are going from red plus projects selling at $5 to $10 to the last auction sold blue carbon project at $31 per ton. So that's a massive jump in price in a very short time. And therefore, yes, there is that investment risk in investing upfront, and which can be insured against. But the benefit is that you're securing your carbon, your carbon supply for the years to come at a price that is fixed and lower relative to what the market price is going to be in the years to come. So by finding an agreement with the developer and the community, you can both provide the security that the communities need to actually plant the trees, but at the same time, you can de-risk your carbon claims and make claims into the future, which are the only credible claims that a company can make when it's really committing to sustainability.
Yeah, and I think what you mentioned there is, if you are a CFO of a large corporate, having this sort of risk on the horizon of a net zero date and not knowing quite how to quantify that. If you're a CFO, you've got a lot of knowledge of depreciation of assets. You've tried to model all the factors, and to have this looming charge on the horizon is something that I think people are starting to wake up to. And the fact that there is, this risk or reputational risk also starts to worry people, because there will be an element of residual emissions. For those that just want to do residual emissions and don't just want to just do good, that's a risk. And so being able to control that risk so you can know how to finance the rest of your reduction pathway, to me starts to make a lot of sense. If you are that risk taker, that risk bearer within the institution.
And if I can add something on top of that, the process of purchasing credits on the spot market is slightly more passive, because the project has already happened is already happening. You have little scope to actually shape the project development. While by being one of the initiators of a project, you're really allowing, you can implement additional co-benefits. For instance, we've had clients working in the health insurance sector wanting to add more health clinics in the project area. And in that way, you can really make optimize your carbon budget together with your CSR budget and really bring them together, aligning the project to your company and your company values.
And I think, Frederick, I think you mentioned, sorry if you felt I cut you off, but I'd love to go into sort of what actually happens, what the mechanisms are when a failure does occur, and how CarbonPool steps in, and the functionality that you bring to the market.
Oh, thank you. So, yeah, no worries, I didn't feel cut off. So this is a twofold question, actually, and it has two layers to it, which we feel very strongly about. One of them is how is failure accounted for at the moment, and the other one is how do we believe it should be accounted for, and what mechanisms should be in place. As of now, we live in a world where, at least from a credit perspective, a lot of failure is absorbed by so-called buffer pools that are held by the different accreditation agencies. And if you really look into it from a ledger or accounting perspective, it is not always done so in the most transparent way. And what I mean by that is, once a project is accredited, it is very, very unlikely that even if there's a real reversal, that those credits will be reversed. And the claim is, well, it's okay because we have the buffer pool, so overall it works out. Now, if we look at those registries where there's proper accounting of the buffer pools, we can see that oftentimes they are heavily underfunded, so to speak. I mean, if you look at if you look at California, the buffer pools that were made for forestry credits that are meant to last 100 years, that we're a few years in and they're almost entirely used up. So that kind of shows the risks around buffer pools, and part of that problem is we're trying to solve for a problem. We're trying to solve for risks that are 100 years out. If, let's say, 100 years is the permanence horizon we're looking at, and there's no humanly, and even there's no technologically way, it's technologically impossible to predict what that risk will be over the next 100 years. It was impossible before climate change because that's just how the world works. You cannot look or project that far into the future, and it's even more difficult now with climate change, where we just have less of a view. We have less security. We don't really know how many ecosystems will react to the rise in climate, where wildfires, where forests become more vulnerable, and so on and so forth. So that's one thing. So the way we think about it is there should be a true accountability for there's a physical reality of the project, as in there's biomass that is there, or it's not there because something happened. And depending on that, you should account for. And if you really think about it, the corporates and the buyers who are really forward thinking, they really care about that integrity, not just to have the credit. They care about, does the credit actually mean something? And I think that comes to the core of the problem, which is a lot of the credibility issues that carbon markets have at the moment is that people, maybe rightfully so, have doubts about whether the credit represents the physical reality. And as long as we don't have that, as long as we don't have that link, many of these problems will continue to persist. And the solution we bring, and where insurance plays a very important role, is to back up that physical reality and to say, look, we've taken your risk, we've insured your project. If something goes wrong, we are there with our entire capital and entire balance sheet, which itself consists of verified high-quality carbon credits, and we will make sure to pay you out in the same amount that you lost. And by doing so, we make you as a client whole, but we also make sure that the planet is made whole, or the atmosphere is made whole, because the interesting thing about carbon is the atmosphere doesn't forget. It's not like we can say, well, don't worry, there was a reversal, but we will remove that in 20 years. We're on a path where we really have, we're on a very difficult path where we have to deliver removals every year, and those have to increase. And we cannot afford to fall short.
And I might just touch on a question from that we have from the participants, from Kerr Jeffries, and it touches a little bit on what you spoke about, but he's asking, doesn't paying insurance claims in more carbon credits a cyclical risk? I don't know if that sort of helps to get to the point. I think it's sort of saying, is there not an issue with paying back in carbon credits? I think what we're saying with CarbonPool is that these are credits that will be provided to you if the failure occurs. And so these are verified credits that will deliver will deliver within 3 years the promised carbon sink, I guess, really, in this case. So I don't know if that sort of answers your question, Kerr, but feel free to ask again. Maybe I'll jump, Paula, to you. In terms of, often we speak within the nature-based solutions about the co-benefits and the people aspect that both you and JP touched on. When looking at a project that delivers on these co-benefits, on people and biodiversity, how much more investment or how much more work is it to deliver these projects with this additional value?
I think it's a community participation is the key. I think probably actually the investors are more interested in this type of projects. And we are focusing community participation because we really believe it's a key, because if people who live in the land are involved in carbon projects, they see the benefits for themselves, and the benefits include new employment, improved services, conservation of the environmental, which can mean recovering water and maybe sources and soils, and preserving habitat for biodiversity. I think it's like a symbiotic way, you know. It's because I think that's the really benefits for biodiversity for the communities and for the investors. I think it's very important to visibility this type of projects, and try to looking for more investors in this way, because the communities and the biodiversity and different projects, I think it's in a good ways. They are very ready for this, and maybe they need more explore more methodologies for the biodiversity measures and other things, but I think it's very important. It's not looking for only the carbon in one part, and in other part the biodiversity. I think it's because we need like a one habitat, no, and one way. I think it's the only way for this and benefit the biodiversity, no, and people and carbon.
Thank you. I think it's, you know, JB, on the actual bit of, and I know we're running short, but maybe this will be the last question before there's any from the participants. But in terms of actual money going to the projects, can you explain a little bit of how you do that and how you deliver that?
Yeah, happy to. So for us, because this is kind of truly embedded in how we run the place, and it's you know, reflective of our theory of change, but also because we are a Plan Vivo certified project, it means that there's two ways in which our revenues get reinvested in the community. One is that for every dollar of revenue that comes from the sale of a credit, 60% is earmarked and de facto reinvested in farmers specifically. And these are the farmers who join the program, and this is stipulated in the contracts that we have with them. In other words, the ecosystem services that they provide, the thinning, weeding, planting, and all that great stuff that they do to care for their land is compensated. As well as their ability to attain specific milestones. So as their forests grow and reach different stages of density and so on, they get compensated. And some of this, the large share of this comes in payments, and some of it comes in farming input, so seeds and fencing. So that's 60% of our revenue. In addition to this, every year, I would say roughly 15 to 25% of our revenues go to our reforestation partners. And so those farmers performing the work need to be coordinated, need technical support. And so all the people who actually run the operations survey that the activities get completed properly, execute these payments, but also perform the field monitoring activities, because we rely heavily on field data to substantiate our carbon claims. That work is essentially the operational overhead. So give or take, by the time, you know, we've covered, you know, the actual cost of doing the work, there's roughly 15 to 20% revenue left to cover the overhead of connecting to the carbon markets, you know, keeping an eye on their certification, and investing in the technology and the platform that we have. So I would say more or less 75 to 80% of our revenues go directly back to the community.
Yeah, and that's amazing. I think sometimes people don't recognize how much certification can cost. You know, Vera's charging around $200,000 maybe plus to certify a project. So again, there's some inherent upfront costs in origination, in setting these things up to conform with standards to be certified. But I think we've come to time. There's so much to discuss, and you've all been so amazing. Thank you all for, I guess, attending. I think that hopefully you've got a bit of a taste of origination. There's probably a lot more questions we could have answered. I think, you know, please do feel free to get in touch with the team at Earthly or any of the panelists. You know, we firmly believe that, you know, with origination, we could start to get to the root of what we need to achieve from a climate perspective to achieve our Paris-aligned goals, but also from a responsibility point of view, and looking at it from a corporate lens, we can really look to define the outcomes, the quality outcomes that you wish to achieve, but also look at fundamentally looking at the financial side of it. And that also brings in, you know, the products such as Frederick's in terms of making sure that you can decrease that risk and ensure that you can move forward with your strategies. So thank you all very much for attending. I hope you will join us at our next webinar. But for now, thank you very much. Thank you, panelists.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye,
And
everybody.
please, yeah, forward the questions to the Earthly team and we will answer them via email.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Bye-bye.